Brought a sister to the meeting the other night.
Okay, I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. We will have invocation pledge by Mrs. Ryan Aldo.
Dear Lord, help us do the work of Brunswick County tonight. Help us to progress and to help our county move forward in these times. Please watch over our men and women in uniform who are in harm's way and help us to make sure everyone gets home safely tonight. And in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank Mr. Caldo for the invitation and pledge. I'd like to welcome all the citizens here to the meeting tonight. If you have your phones, please turn your phones on vibrate or silent. This time we're going down to approval of the agenda. Are there an additional addition to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'd like to add one item under the County Administrator's report, and it's the HVAC Maintenance Bid Award.
Are there any additional to the agenda or deletion? If not, what's the pleasure of the board? There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Probably moving to second. Our discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed say nay. We're down to the public hearing. 12-051. 0159. Ms. Sullivan.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Tonight's public hearing, conditional use permit case number 12-007, submitted by Susan F. and John L. Stark Sr. for a country general store in the agricultural A1 zoning district. The subject property for this request is located at the northeast quadrant of the intersection of Triplet Road, State Route 672, and Benton Road, State Route 602, in the Powellton Election and Magisterial District. This property is also identified as Tax Map 94, Parcel 31A. The applicants are requesting approval of a conditional use permit for a country general store in the A1 zoning district. The applicants propose to operate and maintain the country general store out of an existing structure located on the subject property. The subject building was once operated as a United States Post Office and store selling to the general public. The applicants are requesting to utilize the building as a country general store that will be named Triplet Junction, focusing on considerably competitive pricing. The store would sell canned and dry foods, juices, household cleaning agents, paper products, pet food, and hardware. The applicants have stated that the store will not sell gasoline, alcoholic beverages, tobacco products, or the lottery. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this request at their July 10, 2012 meeting. No one spoke in opposition to the request. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of this conditional use permit to the Board of Supervisors, subject to the following 17 conditions. And the applicants, Mr. and Mrs. Stark, are here this evening.
Okay, thank you. We declare the public hearing open. If there's anyone to speak in favor of conditional use permit 12-0159.
Don't have anything particular, but I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Anyone speak against the conditional use 12-0159? If not, declare the public hearing closed. Are there any questions by the board members? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant this conditional use permit.
Motion has been made to grant the conditional use permit with the conditions stated. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you. We're down to the approval of the minutes. You have a chance to review your minutes. What's the pleasure of the board? You have the minutes attached to your agenda. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the minutes and I move to approve them.
Motion has been made to approve the minutes as presented. Is there a second? Probably moving second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you. Department of Transportation. Transportation, move on. I guess you had a chance to review those. Down to no special presentations. Down to Department Agency. Southside Community Service Board. FOI 13-14 Performance Contract. How you doing?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, and supervisors. Ms. Ward, it's a pleasure to be back with you again. It's that time of year where we're, Southside Community Services is going to share a bit about what they've done in the county and here our region for the past year, and I have a brief presentation. I think I do. Okay, that's visible. And you have a handout, those handouts in your packet. I'd like to just fairly briefly run through a bit of highlights and outcomes for this past fiscal year we'd like to share with you. And if you have any questions, please stop me. Otherwise, I'll just bang on through. There we go. In brief, we have served about 2,726 citizens across our three-county region last fiscal year. There's a little bit of distribution of the ages in that, and we have served 5% more people than we did last year. That's significant for two reasons. One is we financially didn't receive more money to do that, but we were able to do that, and we're pleased to report that. But also in particular, most of those 5% ended up being children and adolescents that we were able to provide services for. And that's been a focus to develop more, so we're pleased to be able to report that to you. A little bit about the financial management that we've had. Our total of $13.3 million across the three-county region that we work in. A little bit about that and where those came from. As you can see, there's a spread of both local, your contributions, as well as federal, state. The majority of that, about close to 3/4 of that, is from fee-for-service. So essentially, the services that we provide, Medicaid, commercial, and third-party insurance companies, that sort of thing, is the bulk of what actually funds our services to the citizens. What I want to pay a little bit of attention to and point out to you is a bit of return on your investment of your local dollars. And I'm pleased to report that across our entire region, for every $1 tax appropriations from the counties, we return actually $57 in services that were provided to our citizens. You see for state, that's about $3.40, and federal is about $1 to $25 in return services. I'll talk about that a little bit, how that affects Brunswick County in particular in a minute. A little bit about employment impact as well. We like to think ourselves not only as someone who provides services to needy, underprivileged, and otherwise disabled folks in our region, but really also as somewhat of an economic engine for employment in the local economy. I'm not an economist, I can't even say it right, economist, but we have certainly consulted with those people with expertise, and they have studied this and been able to tell us two things. One is of the total amount that we, from our total budget, that we pay our employees, which is about a little more than 75%. So 3/4 of every penny we have go to pay for staff. Of that $10.6 million, economic calculation says that that returned about $14.4 million in the respective local economy across our region. The total input of the total output of our $3.3 annual $1 million annual budget, looking at ripple effects. In other words, other jobs that our staff and our agency spends. Again, we try and do that locally whenever possible. That it's estimated that about $19 million is the total impact of the economy out in the region. So we're real pleased to report that, and we not only like doing what we do for citizens, but we're real pleased that we're a stable economic force that helps people with jobs and economies and shop owners along the way. Let me also point out just real briefly, so you might get a picture of our actual employment jobs across the region. You can see Brunswick, on any given day, is about 49. That can go up a little bit or go down, but roughly about 50 jobs on any given day, where we maintain on a steady basis here in Brunswick County. You can also see there from the graph that there are 220 jobs that we pay people with. That, again, a regional impact that supports a total of about 310 jobs. So again, we're real pleased that money is being used to good purposes and is an economic bolster to our region. I'd also like to real briefly just highlight some of the big accomplishments we had this past year that I'd like to share with you. We fully implemented an electronic health records, which, as you probably know, most all healthcare providers by 2014 must implement. And you probably may already know that that's easy to say and quite costly, sometimes difficult to do, and it is. I'm pleased to report that we were able to do that in a matter of about 6 months, which is quite rapid, and we're able to do that without actually losing a lot of money, which the process typically involves. So I want to give our staff a big hand. They did that very difficult task smoothly and effectively. We're real pleased to continue to support and expand the Wounded Warrior program that we sponsor and host, and it works across the Southside region this past year, where we didn't have that before, and we're looking to continue to promote and have expanded services available, mostly case management referral for returning veterans. We have added a new position at the Behavioral Health Center here in Brunswick of a child and family therapist. Again, to keep up with that demand I mentioned increase. Also aid in the array of services that we would like to have in place here in the county as well. We've expanded our drug and alcohol services to include group therapies and services for people. We've redesigned our website to principally be more of a consumer-friendly and educational resource and referral mechanism for our citizens. So if you haven't had an opportunity to look at that, I really encourage you to do that. There's a wealth of information, and we're looking to expand the utility of that. I also want to take just a minute to say we have begun the process. We're in the throes of going out, very soon going out to bid for a general contractor for an expansion project of our Brunswick Behavioral Health Center. Those of you who know that off the street, it's fairly small, and we've been fairly limited in terms of the services we can provide there because we're out of room. The last staff person we put in there, we had the empty closet. And office work, so you can kind of work a little jam. But so I want to tell you a little bit about that in a minute. But that's a picture of our website, a snapshot. But please do feel free to check. We have a great deal of information. The planned project of expansion looks a little bit like this. That may be hard to see, but the existing building there is, this is a facing shot, and the doubling of the square footage that we have is in the portion to the right, which will be added. And again, that will be committed to service provision, so that for children and families, that will be where all the services are. The staff offices will get to be in the old building. They're delighted to hear me say that, but that's our commitment to have really designed this new feature specifically for people who come in and make them come for services. I'll also point out that we will have an office dedicated in there for telemedicine, telepsychiatry. Again, we're working to increase capacity and access for folks who run through that. So that's the end of that presentation. Any questions about that?
Any questions about board members?
I would, if I might, just like to also invite now Reverend Ron Thornhill, one of your appointed board of directors on our board, to come up and just say a few words to you about his first year here. He's a way better speaker than I am, so I really look forward to it.
No, thanks. Good evening, Mr. Chair and the rest of the board members. It's been a pleasure serving this first year with the Southside Community Services Board. What Don failed to mention is that he's been very helpful in terms of acclimating all of the new board members. And this has been somewhat a high, or the learning curve has been somewhat difficult that first year. But he's been very helpful in terms of getting us not only acclimated, but also helping us to see the importance of what Southside Community Services Board does. In addition to that, one of the things that has helped me, not knowing all the things that we do here, and being able to visit some of the facilities makes a big difference. So I want to commend you all for the great job that you're doing, and not only just appointing individuals such as myself, but being associated and recognizing that this is a partnership and it takes a collaborative effort to get the job done, not just here in Brunswick, but South Boston as well as Mecklenburg County. So again, thank you for appointing me and continue to do a great job that you're doing.
Thank you. I have one other clarification. The actual performance contract that you received, have a copy, and hopefully will choose to approve. A slight change. Actually, it's a great change. We've worked diligently with the Department of Beaver Health to try and get some efficiency. It takes a great deal of time and ultimately money to manage this contract every year. It's a big deal. And we have got them to agree to do it on an every 2-year basis. So that is really a big step, which means that you only have to go through this process. You have a new contract for 13 and 14. So that's a bit of a difference. However, having said that, we'll still be back here each year to give you a report on what we've been doing in the meantime and address any questions. And you have my contact information, so please feel free to email or call me as you need to. And we hopefully will see you all at the groundbreaking and the grand opening of our new Beaver Health Center when we get that going later this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
You heard the presentation by Southside Community Service Board, FY 13-14 performance contract. What's the pleasure of the board? Approve the performance contract. You have a chance to approve the performance contract.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the performance contract. I move that we accept it as proposed.
Okay, motion has been made to accept the performance contract as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. Thank you. Down to Brunswick County Electoral Board. Question for voter and equipment.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm John Corrigan, 64 Mosley Drive, Ebony, and President, Chairman of the Brunswick County Electoral Board. I am here this evening to ask for an appropriation of $3,680 to cover the balance of the cost of an optical scanner that our CAP or central absentee precinct uses. At present, absentee ballots are tabulated by hand, a tedious and time-consuming task for those poll workers who man the CAP. In the 2008 general election, Brunswick County had approximately 900 absentee ballots. Barbara Lewis, our registrar, anticipates approximately 1,500 absentee ballots in this year's general election, about a 67% increase over 2008. The optical scanner we wish to purchase will eliminate the manual tabulation of those ballots. Regarding the appropriation we are seeking, I believe a little history is in order. The process to acquire this optical scanner was actually started by the prior electoral board last December. All three of those members left the board at the end of February this year for various reasons. You now have a totally new board, and none of us was aware of the need or desire for the scanner until the registrar brought it to our attention in early June. I would point out that that is not her responsibility, but she was just trying to help us. We noted that neither our 2011-12 nor 2012-13 budgets had included any option for any new equipment. I have learned that the prior board did not budget for any. In any case, we thought we could still do it since the State Board of Elections was offering a grant of up to $5,000 toward that purchase. That's a very elusive number, up to, and it left us without a firm figure to work with while we were seeking an appropriation. We then learned that the State Board of Elections was also reimbursing us for part of the expenses we incurred for the March Republican presidential primary. The grant I mentioned, plus a portion of that reimbursement, was all that we were going to need to purchase this equipment. We would not have to come and ask for an appropriation. Then, at the last board meeting, our finance director, Ms. Reeks, announced that the entire reimbursement was being used to cover an overage on our budget for last year, and we were, again, short on funds. On August the 8th, we were notified by the State Board of Elections that we had been approved for the entire $5,000 grant, and that the money should be received by our treasurer within 2 weeks. As of 1:30 this afternoon, the treasurer's office had not received those funds, but I anticipate that they will be received within the next few days. Again, what we're asking for is appropriation for $3,680 to cover that equipment. Thank you for your attention.
Are there any questions by the board members? Mr. Jones?
You said the equipment costs $3,600,
It costs
$3,600. How much does equipment cost?
$8,630. Beg your pardon, $8,680.
What was that? Let's clarify that. What was the cost? I believe you said $3,680.
The appropriation I'm asking for, that's all I need. $5,000 is being paid by the state out of that $8,680. So we need $3,680.
Any other questions? No, by board members? Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
Where is it coming from?
Okay, Mr. Jones, that's concerned where the money will come from. Okay.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Woolridge, can you provide us some enlightenment on that? Yes, it can come from your board contingency funds. Right now, you have $13,000 in that fund, so you can use board contingency funds to make up this difference.
Could we use our mics, please? I heard what you said, Ms. Woodruff. I repeat what you said. We could use the board contingency fund. We have a $13,000 in that fund. And that leaves us with
A little over
a little over $9,000.
Do you think that will substantiate, the board for the remainder of the year? It's kind of difficult to anticipate what may come up throughout the year. Right. But I do know we have a very significant election year, and this equipment will be needed in order to ensure that the workers are not tallying the absentee ballots by hand. This will be a more effective and efficient way of calculating and tabulating the ballots.
I move that we.
Ms. John, you had a question? Sorry, Ms. Jones. You had a question, John?
No, I was just going to actually move that we go ahead and purchase this equipment for the same reasons that we were talking about, the numbers, the vast numbers that we're going to have this year is going to be a big year.
Okay. All right. So there's a motion.
All right, I move that we supplement the electoral board for the amount of $3,680, and the money come from the Board of Supervisors contingency fund.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Jones that we supplement for the machines, $3,680 from the Board of Supervisors contingency fund. Is there a second?
Second.
Probably moving to second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you. Down to the Department of Social Services, special reappropriation.
Good evening.
Good evening. How you doing?
Doing well. Thank you, Regent Farrar. We appreciate this opportunity to come back and talk with you again. At our May Welfare Board meeting, in reviewing our budget, we came to the conclusion that we would have additional funds of our local-only money most likely remaining at that time. And so therefore, at the board meeting, our welfare board took action and made a motion that if there was monies left in the local-only lines, that we would make a request of our Board of Supervisors to reallocate that so that a 1 or 2% bonus can be made to our employees at that time. The reasoning behind this was multiple by the board members. First and foremost, it was recognized that the caseloads for our staff have increased significantly in the last few years. The SNAP program alone in the past year has increased for the number of clients over 1,000. We also have 4 unfilled positions at the agency that we have not asked the county to cover because our staff has been so diligent in keeping things abreast. As well as that, between our audits that we have, as well as our regional specialists that come in and review the caseloads and the work we've done, we have always exceeded the standards set by the state. And in recognition of the hard effort and the issues that are being presented to us on a daily basis with client needs and demands, it was felt that it was time to recognize those efforts made by our staff by a possible bonus. We have completed our year-end budget spending. It has been reviewed and tabulated, and everything has been closed out by our treasurer. And it was determined by Ms. Maitland, as well as our own fiscal manager, that we returned over $37,000 in local-only money to the county. We are requesting a reallocation for our staff members that are of permanent status. We have had a couple of employees that have left since I sent the letter to the board in June making the request. So our request is actually for $17,767.43 with the 2% bonus area. If it was for a 1%, it would be $8,883.71. The other thing that I want to just reiterate for the board is to have a reminder that our staff does a great deal of work to bring services to our clients, the most needy in the county, the indigent rather, the most vulnerable, whether it's our senior citizens or our children along the way. And at the same time, over $32 million comes back to the clients of our community. And those are dollars that are spent, whether it's through SNAP, TANF benefits, and or Medicaid to help support them in our community, as well as support the businesses and vendors that exist here. So we'd like you to consider our staff and the hard efforts that they make and grant them this opportunity to have a bonus at the same time. Any questions?
Any questions to Department of Social Services Director? Board members?
Mr. Chair, which board member served on that board as a liaison? Could you share your sentiments about it?
I was in favor of the employees receiving a bonus, as Ms. Burke has said. They have worked diligently and hard. They have gotten high scores on every audit they have ever been through. They've never gotten any points against them or anything that they have stringent tests they go through. I really feel like they deserve it for everything that, and it's been a lot of hard work. They've had a lot of new programs they've had to implement computer-wise. Like she says, they haven't replaced staff members. They've covered full positions instead of hiring full positions, and those positions aren't low-paying positions. And when you can cover 4 of those positions with the staff you have, I think that says a lot.
Any other questions to the Director, Department of Social Services?
Is this a one-time bonus?
Yes, ma'am.
If not, no other questions, what's the pleasure of the board? And you have 2 scenarios in your, I know everybody had a chance to review those, you got 2 scenarios, so what's the pleasure of the board?
I think we are too early in the budget year to start recognizing bonuses.
Oh. Okay. Haven't called for questions, but okay. All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to follow the lead of the board member that serves on that board. That's not a meeting that I go to on a regular basis. And when we appoint board members to serve on these boards, I entrust their decisions. So I'm going to give way to the board member that serves on that board and follow her lead,
Okay.
whichever decision she makes.
Again, what's it, Mr.
I
Cataldo?
have one other question.
Yes, sir.
This is money then that was originally budgeted last year's budget, and they have $37,000 left over
Yes, sir.
that they did not spend in last year's budget, and this would cost us $17,000 for the 2% raise.
Yes, sir.
I think that's a fair deal.
We discussing this thing, okay. That's fine. All right, what's the pleasure of the board? I need a motion.
Is it appropriate for me to make the motion?
It's appropriate for you to make the motion.
And I move that we give the 17,000 2% bonus back to social services. It was originally in their budget. They did not spend it. I feel like it's theirs to give back. They deserve it.
There's a motion to give 2%, which equates to 17,000, and you can give me the exact figures. I don't know the exact figures.
$17,767.43.
All right, thank you. All right, that is the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Probably move to second. Now discussion time. Any discussion? No more discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, let's do it. All right. Seems like the ayes have it. Let's move on. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brunswick County Sanitary Landfill, Deedless Training. Turn it over.
Good evening, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to address y'all tonight, and I hope the board will be pleased to know that I'm not here to ask for any money. We found out, I'm here on behalf of Eastern Timberlands. Eastern Timberlands is a holding company that has basically recently sold all of its assets except one. They have a pending sale on the other one. Upon inspecting this tract of land, which is adjacent to the old Brunswick County landfill, it was discovered there were 2 monitoring wells that had been constructed by the county on this piece of land that basically no one had any record of as far as Eastern Timberlands or the truck zones. We researched it and we realized apparently in 2007 the county had initiated proceedings to condemn 9,200 of an acre to put 2 monitoring wells to check and see if there were contaminants leaching from the old landfill on the Eastern Timberlands tract. For whatever reason, the survey was done of the tract, but the condemnation was never filed, was never served on Eastern Timberlands, and never went forward. But for some reason it was constructed as if it had been done. Eastern Timberlands contacted me and we discovered that apparently there was some error back in 2007. By the same token, about 15 years ago, the county had to condemn or take 16 acres of the Eastern Timberlands property because of leaching from the landfill. And when they took that, basically there was a road going into the tract, and they sliced out a piece that severed the road. So basically Eastern Timberlands had no way of getting to reapportion that tract anymore. Eastern Timberlands suggested that I proposed to the board an exchange of an easement from Route 700 to the back of their tract for an easement over the 9,200s that the county needs. And we had, of course, prepared a draft deed of exchange, presented to it. It won't cost the county a penny. I think back when they were going to do the condemnation, they had valued the property at about $2,300, which was 5 years ago. So it's basically saving the county at least that much, if not more, and it's helping Eastern Timberlands because they will once again be able to have access to the back of their tract like they used to have. So I'd ask the court, usually speaking in the courts, not so much the boards, but I'd ask the board to consider approving that deed and allowing us to move forward with that.
Are there any questions for Attorney Whitby? I mean, you had a chance to review the flag and wording and the packet there. Are there any questions by the board to Attorney Whitby? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Probably moving in second. Now discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Thank you.
I appreciate the board's consideration.
Thank you. Good to see you. No presentations. Now to citizen comments. Each citizen will allow 3 minutes to speak. Tell me how many we have
We
today.
have 6 citizens, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
The first citizen is Bob Abernathy.
Before we always welcome citizen comment to speaking to at the board meetings. Could you read the rules of conduct for citizen comments?
Brunswick County Board of Supervisors Rules of Conduct. The Board of Supervisors appreciates your attendance and participation in this evening's meeting. To ensure that the citizens of Brunswick County have an opportunity to share their views with us, we set aside a portion of our agenda each month for citizens' comments. It is in everyone's best interest for board meetings to be conducted in an efficient and orderly manner. To that end, we ask that you observe the following rules throughout this evening's meeting. Citizens who wish to address the board during citizens' comments should sign the sheet which has been provided for that purpose. Each person who speaks will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Anyone who addresses the board must be first recognized by the chairman, move to the podium, state his or her name and address, and then address the board. No comments may be made from elsewhere in the meeting room. Neither the board nor county staff will respond to questions during the citizens' comments section of the agenda. After all citizens' comments have completed, the board may answer questions or offer information relevant to comments made. Any questions which are not answered after all citizens' comments have been completed may be responded to as soon after the board meeting as possible. The public is expected to refrain from applause and other outbursts both during citizen comments and at other times throughout the board's meeting. Applause is permissible only after presentation of awards or special recognitions. A maximum of 60 minutes has been set aside for citizen comments, which will enable a minimum of 20 citizens to address the board. Any person who endorses comments made by an earlier speaker is asked to state support for that speaker's comments rather than repeating the comments. If there is a group of citizens which has developed comments for the board, the group is encouraged to designate a spokesman who may identify the group on behalf of which he or she is speaking.
Thank you for reading that, Tony. Who's the first citizen up for comments?
Bob Abernathy.
Mr. Abernathy.
Charlotte Waters was at a meeting at the Nightaway service station and called back to our office to find out how to get to the community college. She thought she had to return to Lawrence to get there. So if she didn't know how to get to the college, then I know she didn't know there was two 500 kilobyte lines passing through Brunswick County. So how does she get credit for bringing the Dominion power plant to Brunswick County? You know and I know that this power plant was selected in Brunswick County by Dan Petit. Charlotte Waters had nothing to do with it. But she found out about a secret meeting in Richmond and took some of the supervisors and an ex-supervisor to this meeting. But it was closed to the citizens of Brunswick County. Does this sound right? No, because no one from Brunswick County was supposed to be there. But she managed to get her picture taken and claim the credit. Why does Brunswick County have to give Williams Power Company $10 million for 3 years for $30 million? Plus $900,000 and $100,000 local funds to connect the water to the power plant and so on. We will be, how will we regain this money? You know these grants come from the tobacco division, and the tobacco farmers of Brunswick County are responsible for this money being there. So what does Brunswick County do for the tobacco farmers? But raise their taxes. My taxes went up 31, 33, and 63%. I can tell you something that Charlotte Waters did do. Charged Brunswick County for a 3-day trip to learn how to be a roadway president. Charged gas to her car or somebody's car to the county car. Charged Brunswick County for a 3-day trip to Greensboro to learn how to be I hate to say this, a black administrator, but that's what the meeting was called. Charged meals on Friday night in Richmond, and also wanted to go to the county. Have a county-paid custodian chauffeur her around. Threatened to fire county employees if they gave our committee any information. Trip to the homestead for 3 days, 3 people charged to the county. Still, she would not give us information on this trip. 3-day meeting 3 people is supposed to be a business trip. Costed the county almost $10,000 for a lawyer to do her job. She should know her job. Why is a lawyer there at the meeting? 4 lawyers from Richmond joined on her case at the county's expense, and we won the case, Freedom of Information Act, without a lawyer. Still she's holding back on information. And we know she has against the judge's ruling. After a trial of the Freedom of Information Act.
Time, sir. Time. 3 minutes up. Thank you. Next on the agenda.
Bill Hudson.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and other board of supervisors. My name is Bill Hudson. I live at 108 Rollinwood Drive, Lawrenceville, Virginia. I would like to make a request to the board of supervisors. The board of directors of Better Brunswick government would appreciate the opportunity to meet with you in open discussion and effort for you to understand our mission and for us to better understand your mission. Better Brunswick government's mission is dedicated to educating the citizens of Brunswick County about the functions of the local government. We need to see more like to see town hall meetings to discuss important issues. After all, the citizens of Brunswick County trusted you and voted you into office. The citizens also pay your salaries and expenses. And as a result, they should have some say in the decisions made by the Board of Supervisors. And we respectfully request a response by August the 31st, 2012. And I have a copy for each member of the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Gene Wiley.
Good evening. My name is Gene Wiley. I live at 220 Reed Creek Road, Fremont, Virginia. I just wanted to use this opportunity to extend a thank you to Dominion Power for their open communications with the citizens of Brunswick County. I think they put forth a tremendous effort in providing detailed information about their new power plant that they're locating in Brunswick County. They have allowed the citizens the opportunity to meet with them, seek answers to their questions about the power plant and about the potential route of the transmission lines. From all of this, I believe the citizens are very comfortable with Dominion Power and how they will operate their business. It is certainly comforting to have a company of this caliber to locate or to choose Brunswick County as a location for their business. A business of this magnitude can certainly put Brunswick County on the road to being able to attract more new businesses to the county. Thank you. And I also have a copy for each of you.
Rodney Gilliam.
Good evening, everyone. The board, to everyone, this is my first time ever coming out. I'm originally from Dinwiddie County. I live at 3823 Rawlins Road, Rawlins, Virginia, in Brunswick now. My wife and I have been there for 16 years. What brings me here tonight is the county convenience center, the place where we take our trash. What we're running into now is Monday, you guys open the county, the building's open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesdays closed all day. Wednesdays you open from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. Thursdays you close again. The problem that we're running into is on this Wednesday at 1 o'clock. My wife and I, we're at work. We can't get there and take our trash. So what we're asking the county is if you guys can reestablish the hours that you had at first on Wednesdays, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., so that way we won't have to settle our trash from Tuesday to Friday because we're working. It means a great deal to us. We went around, we asked other people in the county. We have over 100 signatures on the petition just asking for this, and we got one person that I spoke to that had a problem with it. There were stories from every other person that felt the same way and said, hey, hey man, I'm glad you're taking the time to go up and let the county know about this. That's all we're asking again, just that Wednesday. Originally, it was all day from 7 a.m. 7 p.m. The hours were cut from 1 to 7. We're working. A lot of people are working, and it's not working out. Thank you.
A.W. Hyde, Sr.
Good evening. I'm Wayne Hyde, Christiana Highway, Cochran, Virginia. At the previous board meeting, reference to the letter, June the 12th. I wonder if the board has made any study of it and if they have a response at this time. I did meet with Mr. Bernard Jones, and we had about an hour and 15 minutes review of what was relevant to the letter. And as you know, Mr. Jones had a copy of the letter, and I presented a copy to the board at the last meeting. So we're waiting a response to that letter. If there is one at this time, I would like to know it. Has the board seen the letter? Has the board looked at the letter? I have a copy of it. Again, if anyone needs another copy. Thank you for your time.
The last citizen, Mr. Chairman, is Jerry Marston.
My name is Jerry Marston. I live at 2024 Iron Grade Road, Lawrence, Virginia. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm here for the taxpayers of Brunswick County asking for a 5% bonus. Well, I can't ask for it, can I? Because taxpayers are not allowed to get a 5% bonus. I came to Brunswick County when I was still in the military in the late 60s. Our school systems around 1970 had 4,000 students in the county schools. Looking at the minutes of the June 25th, 2012 school board meeting, which you have in your package today, one would see year-end status update that the average daily membership shortfall will have a negative impact on the state funding for the 2011-2012 school year, what was this past budget year. And that was as of March 31st, 2012. The ADM came in at 1,955 students. They had projected 2,000 when the budget was. So we had a shortfall of 45 students, which equals out to $275,000 less to the school system. So that's one thing we're looking at for this year. Each year over the last 40 years, we have had less students in our schools. Yet our costs keep going up. Why? Also, state reduction in aid to localities is being reduced by $50 million statewide in FY 2013. You have that in your package. Brunswick County FY 13 calculated reductions will total $87,350,000. This is going to be less money that Brunswick County is going to get from the state. Departments hit hardest is local county services. It's going to be $40,862. Commonwealth Attorney, $8,303. The Circuit Court Clerk is going to be $4,826. Local Public Library is going to be $3,084. Financial Assistance for Child and Youth Services is going to be $23,345. And the person here using the PowerPoint was just talking about children in Brunswick County.
Time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank citizens for their comments. We're moving down to 7-minute break, recess break. Consent calendar, you had a chance to review your consent calendars. What's the pleasure of the board?
I had a chance to to review. Mr. Chair, the motion for the acceptance of the consent calendar of reports.
Motion has been made. Is there a second? Second. Probably moving in second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Brunswick County Public Schools, monthly report, you have a chance to review that. It's FYI. Finance Director report.
Mr. Chair, members of the board. First, I have to use disbursements totaling $938,441.93. Of these, fiscal year 12 disbursements were $105,028.39, and fiscal year 13 disbursements were $833,413.54. If there are no questions at this time, staff is requesting approval.
You had a chance to view the expenditure report. Are there any questions by the board members? There are no questions. What's the pleasure of the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I will give the disbursements
Motion has been made to approve the disbursements as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Probably moving in second. Without any discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you.
Next, I have for you the fiscal year 12 additional appropriations and reappropriations. Additional revenues were received from Poor for Life or for Fire and Rescue Services in the amount of $1,439.32 and need to be appropriated in fiscal year 12. Also, the following supplemental appropriations and reappropriations need to be made in FY 12. Sheriff Law Enforcement supplemental funding is needed for additional invoices received for June of 2012. Unexpended funds are available in the Sheriff E911 Communications Departmental budget in the amount of $445. The recommendation is to transfer the unexpended funds to law enforcement and traffic control. Maintenance of buildings and grounds, electricity and water and sewer expenditures are higher than budgeted amounts. Unexpended funds are available in the Maintenance Administration Departmental budget, and the recommendation is to transfer $600 from the administration budget to the buildings and grounds budget. The Sheriff Correction and Detention, additional appropriation needed due to inmate medical expenses of $38,239. Litter control grant expenditures exceeded the grant award amount of $5,804 by $69. There are funds available in the litter control fund balance, and there are no local funds necessary for this supplemental appropriation. The airport runway taxiway and apron rehabilitation project. The total grant project exceeded original appropriation by $1,037, of which $451.25 in local funds were expended. The funds are available in the airport's fiscal year 12 operating budget. The recommendation is to appropriate grant proceeds in the amount of $585.75 and transfer from the airport's operating budget to the capital budget in the amount of $451.25. The CDBG Urgent Needs Grant Project was completed in fiscal year 12. The balance of $19,990.55 needs to be reappropriated from fiscal year 11 unexpended grant proceeds to close the project. There are no local funds necessary. The recommendation is to appropriate additional revenues in the amount of $1,439.32 to the applicable revenue and expenditure line items of the Fire and Rescue Departmental budget. Transfer $1,045 of expended appropriations from the above referenced departments in order to reconcile expenditures with fiscal year 12 appropriated department totals. Appropriate $38,239 from the fiscal year 12 undesignated general fund balance to the Sheriff Correction and Detention Departmental budget. Appropriate $69 from the fiscal year 12 litter control fund balance to the litter control fund. Appropriate $585.75 in grant proceeds to the applicable revenue and expenditure line items of the FY12 airport capital project, and transfer $451.25 from the fiscal year 12 airport's operating budget to the capital budget, and reappropriate $19,990.55 to the applicable revenue and expenditure line items of the urgent needs grant project.
Okay, you heard the recommendations of the expenditures. Are there any questions by the board members? questions and concerns? Board members? If not, what's your pleasure?
Chair, I make a motion to accept the recommendation.
Motion is to accept the recommendation of our Director of Finance. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you.
Next, I have for you the fiscal year 13 additional appropriations and reappropriations. The following additional appropriations and transfers need to be made in fiscal year 13. Regarding the courthouse security fund, due to the transition in staff from the sheriff's office to the regional jail, part-time wages were erroneously omitted from the sheriff's office budgets. The sheriff has requested an additional appropriation be made for part-time wages from the courthouse security fund balance. No local funds are necessary. Asking an additional appropriation of $16,148, and that includes FICA. Next, the home incarceration program. The final payment for administrative wages was made in July of 2012 relative to the home incarceration program. An additional appropriation is necessary in the Sheriff's Office Law Enforcement and Traffic Control departmental budget from the remaining HIP fund balance. Again, no local funds are necessary for the additional appropriation of $256. Also, the following additional reappropriations need to be made in fiscal year 13. County Administrator, a carryover appropriation needs to be made in fiscal year 13 for a payout in the amount of $10,000. The Brunswick County Lake Gas and Tourism Association, a grant match in the amount of $500 approved by the board in fiscal year 12 has yet to be expended, and these funds need to be appropriated in fiscal year 13. The Sheriff's Office Links Maintenance Grant, the grant award in the amount of $3,483 was accepted and appropriated in March of 12. Funds have yet to be expended and need to be reappropriated in fiscal year 13. And the CDBG Simmons Drive project, local funds budgeted in fiscal year 12 were not expended in full and need to be reappropriated in fiscal year 13, the amount of $170,000. The recommendation is to appropriate $16,148 from the fiscal year 13 courthouse security fund balance, appropriate $256,000 from the remaining HIP fund balance to the Sheriff Law Enforcement and Traffic Control budget, and reappropriate $73,983 to the above referenced departmental budgets to the applicable fiscal year 13 revenue and expenditure line items.
Okay.
And I can answer any questions you may
Any
have.
questions by the board members?
So moved.
Second. Motion has been made. Second, our discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Next, I have for you the fiscal year 13 state reductions in aid to localities. Staff recently received a letter from the Virginia Department of Planning and Budget notifying Brunswick County of its finalized reduction amounts for fiscal year 13 required as part of the 2012 Appropriation Act. The act requires the Department of Planning and Budget to provide localities with the basis of each locality's share of the $50 million reduction. Brunswick County's calculated share is shown on the attached spreadsheet at $87,350, including $3,628, of which $3,084 is from the Library of Virginia and $554 is from the Department of Juvenile Justice, which are both derived from two agencies that operate regional programs whose state revenues actually flow directly to them. The board must decide whether or not to include these reductions in the reimbursement to the state. An appropriation of $100,000 is included in the fiscal year 13 budget to fund the mandated reimbursement to the state. No additional funding is necessary for the fiscal year 13 reductions in state aid. The recommendation is the board does not reimburse the Commonwealth for the reductions in aid from the Library of Virginia and the Department of Juvenile Justice. And there are attachments for your review.
Questions? Director?
You say do not.
No, ma'am, to not include those two. One is of the recommendation of a representative from the Department from Juvenile Justice, the regional area. He's asking not to the county not reimburse. And for the library, it's just in the past you've chosen not to.
Okay. So, you good? Board members? Pleasure, your pleasure.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion has been made. There's second.
Second.
Probably moved in second. Our discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you.
All right. Next is the Sheriff's Office update on use of home incarceration Restoration Program funds. At the July 18th regular meeting of the board, the sheriff requested that the balance of the HIP funds be used to purchase a transport vehicle. The question was posed as to whether or not the county could use these funds towards the replacement of the air conditioning unit in the sheriff's office building. Per Walter Kucharski's response, which you have attached, the board may choose to use the funds as it so chooses once transferred into the general fund. In summary, the funds may be used to replace the air conditioning unit in the sheriff's office building. No further action needs to be taken at this time. This is simply for your information only.
That's for the FYI. Everybody good? Okay.
All right, next is the Sheriff's Office Homeland Security Investigations allotment. The Homeland Security Investigations, or HSI office, has established an allotment for the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office in the amount of $2,500. The funding is available to reimburse the county for expenses incurred in collaborative investigative efforts with the HSI office through September 30th of 2012. The recommendation is to accept and appropriate $2,500 to the applicable revenue and expenditure line items of the Sheriff's Law Enforcement and Traffic Control Departmental budget.
Heard the recommendation. Are there any questions? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion has been made. Is there a second? Second. Probably moved in second. Now discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
And lastly, I have for you the Sheriff's Office Burn Justice Assistance Grant. The Sheriff's Office has received $1,607 in federal funds from the Department of Criminal Justice with a required local match of $179. The funds are available at 2 localities to help support their efforts to reduce crime and improve public safety. The local match is available in the fiscal year 13 Sheriff's Office, Law Enforcement and Traffic Control Departmental budget. The recommendation is to accept and appropriate $1,607 to the applicable revenue and expenditure line items of the Sheriff's Office, Law Enforcement and Traffic Control budget.
Any other questions for that? No question. What's the pleasure?
So moved.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Probably moved in second. Now discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Director for County Administrator report.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The first item under the County Administrator's report is the historic courthouse marker. As you are aware, the Brunswick County Lake Gaston Tourism Association, working in collaboration with the Brunswick County Sesquicentennial Committee, received a grant from the Virginia Tourism Association to fund a Civil War marker to be placed in front of the historic courthouse square that will tell the story about court records that were saved during the raid in the town of Lawrenceville in 1865. Included in your packet is a copy of the markup for the marker. Also included in your packet is the location of where the marker will be placed. It's to the right of the front of the historic courthouse. So the recommendation is to approve the marker as presented in your packet and the location, the placement of that marker.
Heard the report from the County Administrator. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the recommendation from the county administrator.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Probably moved in second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
The next item is the Brunswick Byways Visitors and Interpretive Center exhibit design. Staff recommends rejecting the proposals received for the exhibit design and recommend that the board adopts the declaration for competitive negotiations to issue the RFP and authorize the county administrator to re-advertise the project.
Heard the recommendation of the County Administrator. What's the board pleasure?
Why are you rejecting them?
It became apparent and evident that we did not do a declaration.
Okay.
That had not been the practice in the county before, but once it came to my attention, I recognized that that's something that we need to do in the future going forward.
Okay.
So you got a twofold motion. I need to combine both of them.
Yes.
Is to reject the current bids and also
To adopt the declaration and then to allow me to re-advertise.
Is there a motion on the floor for that?
So moved.
Motion has been made. There's a second.
Second.
Probably moving in second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you.
Okay, the next issue is, or item is the property maintenance code. At the July meeting, the board, you directed staff to develop a property maintenance code to address blighted property and abandoned vehicles. Since that time, staff has pretty much done their due diligence. They've obtained documents similar to what you are requesting from various localities. And just this morning, staff went to Chesterfield to a property maintenance meeting. We anticipate having a draft to the Facilities Committee within 30 days, and subsequently, the Facilities Committee will make a recommendation to the board relative to a property and maintenance code for the county.
Down to feedback bids.
Yes, we advertise for bids to provide routine maintenance on our units in various county buildings. We received 2 bids, one from Tucker Mechanical, $3,900, and the other one from Comfort System USA, $4,098. The recommendation is to accept the bid from Tucker Mechanical in the amount of $3,900 and to approve the contract as submitted.
Okay, any questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Where is Tucker located, that company?
The company is located in Brunswick County in the town of Lawrenceville.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion has been made, there's a second.
Second.
Probably moving second, in our discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you. County attorney report, old business, new business, appointments, next appointments. Take care of those.
Yes. First is the Brunswick County Litter Control Council. We have a vacancy in the Meharron and Powhatan districts.
I don't have one for that.
It's still working.
Okay. The Economic Development Visioning Committee, we have a vacancy in Powhatan and Red Oak districts.
Okay, move on.
Okay. The Board of Zoning Appeals have a vacancy in the Powhatan district.
Board of Zoning Appeals. I have, I'm sorry, you get older, your mind starts going a little bit. Deborah Gillis. I would like to make an appointment for her to serve on that board. Deborah Gillis. You need an address, 327 Halifax Road, Longwood, Virginia. Got the board. That's my motion to serve on that committee. And I guess I need a second. To look at my district, Powhatan district, serving on Powhatan.
Yeah, second.
Second.
Probably moved in second in our discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you.
Workforce Investment Board, you have 2 vacancies.
Can table that, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
And the Lake Country Area Agency on Aging, you have a vacancy there.
Anybody? The person you work out, huh? Okay, no problem. All right. Thank you. We're down to adjournment. We'd like to thank all the citizens for coming out and participating in the government process. We need a motion to adjourn to 8:30, 2012 to 6:30 at the IDA Industrial Development. The motion is adjourned to 8:30, 2012, 6:30 p.m. IDA.
Second.
Probably moving second. Our discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you.
Is that going to be open to the public, or is that going to be closed
Well,
door?
they'll probably close as soon as you get some. But they'll probably, no one's gonna, what day was it?